Welcome to another episode of Marketing for Your Boring Business, helping you get seen in a cluttered newsfeed. Today is a very awesome show, and we're going to be talking with Tim Elliott from marketinged.live about the importance of engagement. Engagement is first, and Tim has really honed in on his personal ethos of people by people, a mantra of his that has gone back to his over 20 years of marketing experience. Tim Elliott is a champion marketer who focuses on the ethos of people. Tim Elliott is a champion marketer who focuses on the ethos of people by people. He is the creator of the FYI customer architecture model, co-founder of Marketing Ed Live, freelance marketing director and speaker, and a Virgin startup mentor. Tim has 20 years experience in marketing, throughout which time he has worked with a wide variety of brands and businesses, from Premier League football clubs to a variety of FMCG brands, manufacturers, startups, professional service organizations, and large pubs. He even says that he works with some boring businesses too. He's also a firm believer that everything tastes better with peanut butter. We hope that you enjoy our first episode. I will let you guys know right now that this might be a little rocky since this was my first ever podcast interview. So, with any luck, these are just going to continue to get better and better, but it doesn't change the fact that what Tim has to say is so important for any brand of any size. So let's dive into it. Today we're talking with Tim. He is a champion marketing. We're focusing on the ethos of people by people, the creator of the FYI customer architecture model, co-founder of marketinged.live, freelance marketing director, speaker, and Virgin startup mentor. Tim has 20 years of experience in marketing, and he pretty much likes to put peanut butter on any food, which I 100% support, by the way. He loves fishing programs, but has absolutely no desire to ever learn how to fish. And once had a job for 2 weeks cleaning oysters on a small boat in the North Australian coast. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show, Tim. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Wonderful. So I'm curious, crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
Oh, it's got to be crunchy for me.
Oh, really? You're a crunchy. I put creamy peanut butter on everything. My husband hates peanut butter, which is really ironic because me and my kids love it, and there's nothing better than grossing your spouse out with peanut butter kisses. So
Vice versa with my wife. She doesn't like it either, so we do the same.
opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive in. Why don't you tell us about what your whole mythology is with people by people and how boring businesses can get their message across.
Of course, yeah. So it all started for me a while ago with my first boss. It was for a local web design agency, a small web design agency here locally in the UK. And he said to me, marketing and sales is about one thing, and it's about people. And he says people buy from people they like, people they know, people they trust, and we've all heard that time and time again. And that kind of thing hasn't changed over the last 20 years, despite the fact that we've got kind of supercomputers in a pocket with mobile phones. We've got Snapchat, messaging apps. We've got communication tools coming out of our head and at the end of every fingertip. But the thing all those technologies do is connect two people. So the people on the inside of your business to the people you want to reach on the outside. So the ethos hasn't really changed for me. It's still kind of really pertinent to me. So even especially with kind of boring businesses, we had a bit of chat before where I did some marketing for a guy we call a plumber over here. I don't know what it's like over there, but a plumber is a guy who fixes central heating and gas and electric and that sort of thing. So we have
our plumbers fix your pipes and your toilets and
yeah,
stuff.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, same guy, same phrase.
Okay.
So we have things over here in the UK called boilers, which are the opposite of air conditioning. They heat the place up rather than cool it down because we're not very cold. But basically, what plumbers do is that they repair white boxes, like white. But all boilers look the same. They're a white box that's stuck on a wall. They're not very interesting, and their key audience is angry, cold English people because so it's not, in that situation, what have you got to market yourself with? No matter what kind of boring business you're in, like a plumber, for example, or legal professional or accountancy, the only differentiator you've got between you and the other guy who fix boilers or does accountancy stuff is the people. It's the people in your team and yourself, right? So if you have the ability to put the people out there on your business and get them to build relationships with your local community, with your audience, that sort of thing, then there'll be the things that stand out, that make you stand out from the other people. Because there's a lot of businesses now that have services and products that are commoditized. So if we take that a bit further on, it comes to making social media. Like, social media is the thing where it gives anybody the ability to reach out and make friends and talk to other people. Like this interview, for example. We're in total opposite sides of the world, I think. Pretty much exactly.
Britain and Korea, yeah, I think they're pretty far apart.
It's pretty opposite. Pretty opposite. And then we met via a Facebook group, right?
Yes.
The same Facebook group that we'd never talked before and stuff. And within a few days, we're doing a little interview and had a few chats and stuff like that. It's if you think with the distance apart and we're liable never to meet in actual real world, but in your local community, you get to meet people online that you can then actually build real relationships with, and that's the key with social media. So what you should do is I always have an ethos of putting engagement first when it comes to social media.
It's funny that you talked about building relationships through social media, because as a military spouse, like, the only way that we communicate with our community here in every base around the world is through Facebook groups, actually. So that's how we find out, like, what's going on in the base, if we were looking for a restaurant, if we're looking for like a nail salon. I just posted this morning a question asking a question about how vacation time works over for our special duty that we're doing. So I totally get it, because people do buy from people, but people also are more than willing to share what they think is best and who they love and who they recommend. And that's where that engagement happens. And it's so important for those businesses that people are talking about to be there, not just as like a business page, but as individuals as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was a guy called Chris Brogan, that some of your audience may have known of, but he always says there's a big difference between community and audience, right? And community is something you're part of. It's like a two-way conversation. You can buy an audience now. Buying audiences, advertising and stuff like that, and it's one, and they just sit there and want to kind of take it in like a TV.
It's like eyeballs. I hate when people are like, "Oh, we get eyeballs on this." I'm like, well, I want my community's eyeballs to be on it. I want to find those people and talk to them.
That's it. You want the interaction and the time, and if you're investing in time and energy to reach the right people, you want something back for that. You want some engagement, is what we say. So on social media, especially, if you focus on engagement first, it becomes a more of a communication channel than a distribution channel, and it's really noisy out there at the moment on social media. No matter what platform you've decided to be on, I think it's super noisy, because there was I read some research earlier in the year that companies and brands have created 300% more content in 2016 than they did in 2015, and it's looked to grow again this year, which is, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's not that many. I know people who, people like me who are professional marketers and stuff like that, whose job it is to be at the forefront and learn all this stuff. And there's time is at a premium. I don't know how many people get to read all this content all the time that people are producing.
And it's perfect that you said that, because it's so easy for businesses of any size to get lost in the clutter. Depending on, I remember a few years back they had this stat that was like the average person has like 150 friends, and they like 200 pages. And, I think about how my mom uses social media, and what she does is she goes onto her computer. She's not like super into using it on her phone, and she will read from like the top posts all the way down until she finds the last post that she saw. But the thing that's really frustrating about that is that the algorithm has changed. So many things that she likes, so many friends that she has, she doesn't always see their stuff. And so we hear this all the time in whatever community you're in, or you're talking to somebody like actually in person. And they're like, they tell you some like cool new news, and they're like, I posted on Facebook. You're like, I didn't even see it. So if you're not even seeing your close friends' updates and stuff, it is so hard to be seen through the noise.
Absolutely, yeah. That's 100% true. I mean, one of our clients over here is a law firm. A law firm, for example, and anybody that's vaguely familiar with law, no matter what country you're in, knows that there's a lot of updates, there's a lot of legislative changes, there's a lot of information that could be shared.
There's a lot of verbiage that most people don't understand.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in law, which I'm sure it's all super, super useful in context. But there's no point in sharing that if it's out of context of your audience or that person's time. So by putting engagement first, for example, if you're seen to be having conversations, there's another saying I always say, that conversations make the best content. Because take Twitter, for example, and Facebook. If your business or your business, yourself as a business, is seen to be talking and openly conversing and having conversations and being useful to people, then that's a great way of being shown of engagement, rather than just hitting up your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, and it's just link after link after link, and nobody's sharing, nobody's engaging with it. If you swap that round a little bit and put the engagement first, so ask questions of your audience, answer other people's questions, reply and retweet other local community information, whether you're a plumber or a builder or an accountant or whatever, you should be part of a community, your local community. You should be the go-to guy to ask about insurance. If you're in a town of a few thousand people, you should be the guy. They don't need insurance every day to buy insurance every day, but you need to be front of mind when it is that time. You can only do that by being useful, by being a utility, by people knowing and understanding who you are, really.
Yeah. So Tim, then my question for you is, what is it that boring businesses can do to find their social media community?
It's really easy, really easy. At the top of every social network, apart from Snapchat, if you count Snapchat as a social network, it's a search engine, very much like Google or Bing or whatever you use. Right, there's a search bar at the top of every single one. If you use that and look for keywords related to your local community, related to your business, more importantly, related to your key audience, your customer, your avatar, your buyer persona, and see what are they talking about. Because people will talk about value, useful and interesting conversations, but the search functionality is massively underused, I think.
Yes. So, do you suggest that people maybe join groups to be part of those conversations, Facebook pages, maybe just use their personal profile to see if anyone's talking about it?
Yeah. Either way, really. I think there's a massive move towards community. I think especially on Facebook. So Facebook groups are really the focus of Facebook. I think at the recent F8 conference, they changed Facebook changed their mantra, their key message to one of community for the first time in their history, and it was pretty much about groups and messenger, which is small communities of like-minded people growing together and being useful together, rather than the open big sharing monster network that it wanted to be before. And I know on LinkedIn as well, which is really good for the professional businesses. I know they're having a big revamp of their groups at the moment, which right now aren't great, but they hopefully they'll be able to bring up. Um, there's kind of community elements and group elements that you can do on every social network. I'm a big fan of Twitter lists as well, which I think is again a massively underused tactic, really, because you can populate your own lists of people who are influential in your local area. You can, like, other industry specialities. You can do all your customers or potential customers in a list, and that really kind of filters out all the other stuff in your Twitter feed that you can engage better within there. So I've got, for example, to give you a real example, I've got 5 or 6 Twitter lists that I visit a couple of times a day to see what key groups of people are on about, so I can be really part of their community and really engage with them. And then what happens then, because I'm focusing on the engagement and building it, when I share content, they're super bought into what I'm saying, because they know and they like me, and they think, I've offered them value first rather than just said it, and they've got more reason to read the content that I share if you put the relationship first, you put people first.
So, what would you say then some of your engagement tactics are for the different social networks? So, you talked about Facebook, how you use it for
Yeah,
search, so finding
yeah,
groups, responding to people, and just being front of mind. And you talked about Twitter
yeah.
lists. What about maybe for LinkedIn or Instagram?
So LinkedIn is quite interesting. So your technically your feed, your timeline on LinkedIn is made up of the people you're connected to and what activity they do. So there may be stuff outside of the connection. So what I do, I focus on engaging, so commenting or sharing on at least 3 of the things in the timeline. So what that does, that shares you technically to people outside of that, like to their audience. So if I was to comment on your feed, I would reach your up to your third connections that could see your feed. So it's all about the timeline for me. The groups aren't great, if I'm honest. But if you focus on the main kind of commenting in the LinkedIn timeline, it's a lot better. You can also cultivate your own connections and use InMail, which is pretty much the messaging app within LinkedIn, and that's really good as well once you've got a bit further along. So once you've got your relationship and you're connected and you want to send a private message, the messaging feature in there is pretty good. But a caveat over here, at least, is that some people don't manage their LinkedIn messaging inbox very well, like their email inbox. And I know people with thousands of unread messages. So for me personally, it's better to keep it in the timeline. But you never know, it's certain industry. And Instagram, again, Instagram's very much about the timeline again. So I use the search bar in Instagram for hashtags related to my industry, locality. So we live in pretty much the centre of England here. So because we're quite a small island on the face of it, we've got 4 or 5 major cities within an hour drive, maybe. So they're all in our, in our catchment area, and we can look what's going on there. We can look at the stories as well. Stories are amazing on LinkedIn. I think it was the beginning of May, I've started using Instagram stories daily, like as a rule. And some of the reach of the stories, because I include the location tag that's in Instagram stories and a hashtag, have reached over 700 people, like locally, and you get pushed out into a local story. So I get into the Derby story, sometimes the UK story, sometimes the Nottingham story. So they're really good to reach and engage your local community and find people aren't necessarily connected to you. But again, if you add your expertise or answer questions that are in your normal feed, there's some really good action to be had in Instagram, especially if you put a quick inside tip for you is you put the handle, the mention handle, the @ handle of the Instagram account you're following in your comment. You will get further up and further more reach and more engagement, because it will notify them twice, so you're not just less lost in the thread. But Instagram's super for that at the moment. So if you can add your, as we say here in the UK, you add your tuppence worth, which is which you contribute to a conversation, or answer the question in that with the @ handle and with a hashtag in there. It's really, really powerful way to do it.
Nice. So, any other tips for boring businesses on what they can be doing to, as you put it, get people to buy from them, and be an expert for those people, be that go-to resource?
Yeah, of course. I think we could, to recap, we covered the search, and social listening is massive, right?
Yes.
If you can join conversations that are already happening, then you don't have to create your own, that sort of thing. And because I'm very much people centric, if you don't be afraid to document the day in the life of what you do. For example, if you're a builder, or if you're an accountant, if you're a builder and you're buying new roof tiles or renovating a garden, if you, rather than doing a before and after the project, if you go, well, today we're laying the footings or we're doing the brickwork, people who are interested in having a renovation will find that interesting, and they'll see that you're working hard, and you take pride in your job. It might not, I always say that you don't follow a dog groomer if you haven't got a dog. So people are following you, if you're a builder, if you're insurance owner, because they're interested in it, whether it's just because you're a local business or they've got some need of insurance and they want some snippets of information.
Well, they could just be following you because they like you, because you interacted with them at one point, and they're like, hey, what's Tim doing today? Hey, what's Desiree doing today? And, I got a fantastic tip on that social media mastermind group that we're a part of, where we met, that said one of the best ways that you can engage with people in groups and stuff that allow you to stand out is, rather than just doing like a typing comment, you should do a video comment.
Yeah.
So, because it lets you stand out, it puts your face to your expertise. Some people are, I have said, oh, I don't like watching video. I don't believe that, with the intense amount of focus and emphasis that Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and everything is giving to video. I mean, that's silly of me to think that just comes down to preference, I think. I don't think anybody would turn away watching or hearing from somebody who is an expert. And this helps them build that relationship more. That gives them that face-to-face, not text to eyeballs.
Yeah.
For it.
Absolutely. That works really well on Twitter as well, because Twitter's native video app, because it's not widely used on Twitter for some reason. But if you reply with a video, then it certainly stands out in the feed, because you get a bigger bit of real estate in the timeline. I know it still moves fast and stuff, but it's super powerful on Twitter, and now Instagram have bought the same thing out. I think you can reply by video and stuff now.
Yeah, people are less likely, I think, to scroll past a video than they are to just scroll past text and a link. Because I think that we've really become a culture that's like, oh, another link. I gotta click on and go read what's going on there. Versus when you can just do a video, and the expectation for video isn't like no one expects 400, 4K video and Game of Thrones level graphics. They just want to connect with somebody and see someone raw and real and who they are and what they're about. So I think that video and pictures are just a great way to do it. So I think that your suggestion for like showing your day, like a day in the life, or this is what we're doing, is what we're proud of. Even if it's like we're laying tiles for this house, now we're laying tiles for this house, it's still showing your story and what you're doing and that you're busy. So.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. I know I've recommended it to a few clients, like a guy who repairs pool linings, out for domestic pool, like swimming pool linings. He cleans and repairs lining pretty much for a swimming pool, which isn't that interesting. There is swimming pools in it, but he goes to some nice houses, and he takes pride in his work, and really cleans up, and that's the best marketing content rather that he could possibly do, rather than write a listicle of 50 best ways to keep your pool clean. If people were keeping their own pool clean, then he wouldn't have a career, really.
No.
But he's in and out within a day, and he takes pride in that. It's the best collateral ever, and it's got him in it, and it's about him, and people can ask questions about him.
Well, wonderful. So any last minute piece of information for our boring business owners, or you think that they're armed with enough ways to go engage with their audience?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, I think it's a bit of a swap in a tactic, and it can be uncomfortable for people because it's easy to just share content. So to be human and put the team in your office, and to put people first and conversation first, can be difficult. But just start really simply, like I do. If you get on each social network and you just set yourself a goal of commenting on one thing a day, and then 2 things a day after a few weeks, after you get used to it, and then 3 things a day. And by the end of it, you're having more and more conversations. It's just starting off and getting used into the habit of actually having conversations and putting people first, and it'll change the way your social media works for you, and you'll start getting more and more engagement and more back, and you'll be a lot useful. And I think it will be a great move for you all.
Wonderful. How can people find you, Tim?
Okay, well, Twitter's probably the easiest one, and it's Tim Elliott UK. I'm Tim Elliott UK on all the social medias, apart from Snapchat, actually, where I'm Tim Elliott 97. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all Tim Elliott UK.
Okay, and we'll make sure to put your link in the story notes here as well. So thanks for taking the time to talk with us today, Tim. I hope it's your information was incredibly valuable. And again, I love the people by people, and I think that it's just so true all the time in every instance, whether it's in person or online.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.